Okay, friends, we're going to get started here. I want to just welcome you again to the last Lunch and Learn in our Living Backwards series. Some of you were a part of the previous week's one because I recognize you with Pastor Keith talking about how to plan your own funeral or plan a funeral of a loved one. And that resource is available online. You can go to our website and you can always find that in the teaching archive or on our YouTube channel. But that resource will be available, as will this one, that you'll be able to share with others. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to introduce the people that will be speaking. I'd love you to save your questions because at the end, Pastor Stephen's going to host a Q&A time at the very end of their gathering time where you can ask as many questions as possible. So let me give you the background behind this Lunch and Learn and then introduce the speakers that'll be sharing today. So I have a father who walked through Alzheimer's and his father did. And I also have a mother-in-law who struggles with it right now. And I recognize that as we age, there are different challenges. And much like our speaker talked about today, better to talk about them. The mystery around them just grows fear, and ignorance is not helpful in those chapters. So what's the old saying? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So we're going to probably learn some things that are going to help us age a little bit better as we age. Some things are outside of our control, and aging comes looking for us all. So inevitably, too, we're going to even talk about some of those next chapter things about navigating long-term house care, as well as staying active and mobile as you age. So let me introduce the speakers. The first one that will be coming to speak is Nalini Sen. Nalini, would you stand? And Nalini will introduce herself. She's going to talk about Alzheimer's and dementia and things we can do to prevent it, as well as just things we can do to manage it and identify it and care for it. So make sure you hold all of your question and answers for her at the end. And then Lianne Newman, if you'd stand, Lianne Newman. And Lianne Newman, again, I'm not going to give their job titles. They'll do that. But she works in the long-term care for the City of Toronto and will answer the questions about navigating that long-term. Like, when do you know someone needs long-term care? How do you find the right place? What's it cost? Can you afford it? And if you can't, Lianne's going to pay for it. That's what she says, something along that line. So, and then Olga Sen. Where's Olga? Olga Sen at the back here. And Olga is going to talk about how do we stay active and fit and what are the right exercises to be doing as we age to make sure we remain mobile and maintain our health as long as possible. So they're going to come one after the other. Let's put our hands together and welcome Nalini Sen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you to speak about how we can live a brain-healthy lifestyle as we age. So my name is Nalini, as Pastor Jonathan said, and I've worked at the Alzheimer's Society of Canada as the Director of Research, Knowledge Translation and Exchange. And today, the information that I'll be sharing with you is based on evidence-based information that's been produced and disseminated by the Society, and it has been developed from scientific findings. So we'll begin. So one of the most common questions that we often hear, or that I've heard when it comes to aging is, will I lose my memory as I get older? And another one is, I think I might be losing my memory. Do I have dementia? Or how do I know if I'm getting dementia? Now, we're going to begin by taking a look at what memory loss is and the types of memory loss that exist as we get older. So just this one before. So we'll begin with a verse, say, from Psalm 46:1, God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. So no matter what we may be facing, whatever fears we may be having with regard to our health, we know that we have God with us on our side. Okay, next. So when it comes to signs of memory loss, one thing I want to start off by saying is that not everyone is going to experience memory loss as they age. Not everyone's the majority of Canadians, in fact, the majority of the population will not experience cognitive decline. However, there are two types of aging and memory loss that can be experienced. The first is normal aging, and 40% of our population will experience age-related memory loss. The second is a more advanced type of memory loss that's referred to as dementia. Now, 5 to 8% of the population will experience dementia who are at the ages 60 and above. And 2 to 8% of the population will experience what's called young onset dementia. And that's dementia that takes place under the age of 60. So there have been reports of individuals experiencing dementia within their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Now, this is it's a smaller percentage. About 28,000 Canadians do live with young onset dementia, unfortunately, but that's out of 600,000 Canadians who are affected by the disease. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the difference between normal aging and dementia and the signs that we can look out for. So in instances when we're thinking about conversations that we've had, and this may be something that many of us have experienced, if you're not able to remember conversations or details from conversations you've had about a year ago, that's something that continuously happens, it may just be a normal part of aging. However, if you're not able to recall conversations or details of conversations that you've had very recently, from this past week, from this past, day, or within the same conversation, in fact, you're finding yourself, somebody said something to you and you're having to ask, can you repeat that? Or you're asking, or you're noticing somebody's asking questions about something you've already said, that could be a sign of dementia, okay? When it comes to names, and I think many of us may have experienced this, names of acquaintances. You've met someone quickly in passing and, you've forgotten their name. Well, if that's something that continuously happens with acquaintances, it could be a normal part of aging. However, if you're starting to forget the names of loved ones, of family members, of friends, of colleagues, that's something that could be an indicator of dementia, all right? Now, things and events. If you're starting to forget appointments or birthdays, and it's occasionally, that could be normal sign of aging. But if it's continuously happening and you're not able to remember an appointment that you made today for tomorrow, you're forgetting that, and major events, that's something, and it's happening more frequently, that could be an indicator of dementia. And then finding words. When you're articulating something and, what's that word I want to say? It's common for us to fumble when it comes to looking for the right word. If that happens occasionally, it could be a normal part of aging. But when it comes to dementia, mid-conversation, you're going to notice individuals pausing. There's a lull. They're having to substitute words with other ones. And sometimes the words that they're substituting it's not always coherent. That's an indicator that they could be experiencing dementia. And then for normal aging, your family and friends, they're not likely going to be worried. When it comes to dementia, however, they'll likely bring it to your attention before anyone else. They're going to notice some changes in you that don't seem right. And so this is not a clinical assessment, but this is giving you an idea as to what the differences are when it comes to normal aging and dementia. If for any reason you are concerned about your memory, it's recommended to speak to your doctor. There's a cognitive assessment that can be carried out. It's called the Mini Mental State Exam, the MMSE, and it's a 5-minute assessment. They'll be able to conduct it, or they may refer you to a neurologist who can carry it out. It's a simple 11 questions. One of the questions is count backwards from 100, but subtract 7 as you go down. There are several things, say no ifs, ands, or buts. And you have to be able to repeat that. And there are several questions that they will be able to assess, and they'll give you a score and let you know if you have a reason to be concerned or not. But the earlier you get an assessment, the better. Okay. All right, so when it comes to the warning signs of dementia, this is something we want to really focus on. This is the more advanced type of memory loss that can exist. So the first warning sign is when your memory is affecting your ability to carry out day-to-day activities. So here we have a picture on your left side, of someone using numerous Post-it notes, but dropping the Post-it notes because things are getting confusing and she's not able to remember if her appointment's today or tomorrow, and things are becoming a little confusing and she's disoriented. Number 2, you have difficulty performing tasks. In this case, this person's trying to fry an egg, but instead of just putting the egg in the frying pan, he's put the shell and the egg. He's a bit uncertain as to how to carry out this task effectively. Number 3, problems with language. This individual is holding up a cat, but is uncertain as to whether the name of the animal is a cat or dog. So you're seeing the person's flustered with the word that should be used. Number 4, a disorientation in time and space. So this is something where you could be in your neighborhood trying to make your way home, and suddenly you forget where your house is. Or you could be in the office space and can't remember where your office is located. That sense of disorientation is an indicator, a sign of dementia. Impaired judgment is number 5. This individual is outside, it's snowing, she's not wearing a coat, she's not wearing boots or mittens. So there's impaired judgment that's taking place. If you're noticing this taking place with a loved one, it's something to be mindful of. Number 6 is problems with abstract thinking. So really being able to carry out basic calculations, doing your banking. Challenges will be experienced by someone with dementia here. Number 7, misplacing things. And this is a common one. This individual has put her dress inside the refrigerator. So, oftentimes we may misplace our keys or lose our cell phones. That happens. But if it's continuously happening that they're putting things in unusual places, that's something to be mindful of. Number 8, changes in mood and behavior. This is where an individual may go from being completely calm and very happy to suddenly incredibly agitated and aggressive even, and for no apparent reason. And so you'll see fluctuations in mood taking place. Number 9, changes in personality. Here we see a little grandson going up behind his grandmother to say hello, and she looks over her shoulder with suspicion, wondering who he is and what he wants. And he's smiling and saying, "Grandma, it's me. What's going on?" Number 10, loss of initiative. Here the individual loves spending time with friends, loves playing tennis with the little picture there, but has lost the drive and the interest in doing so. And in many cases, it's thought that individuals who are experiencing the signs of dementia are aware of it themselves and are concerned that others might identify those changes in them. And so they're withdrawing from social opportunities and are not interested in participating in things that they would normally enjoy, with the fear of being called out on what's happening in them and the changes that they're seeing themselves. Okay. Thank you. So next we'll be looking at the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's disease and what's the distinction there. But the verse that we'll look at here is Romans 8:39. Nothing in all creation will ever be able to separate us from the love of God, not even dementia. Okay. All right, so on your left is an image that I like to refer to, and it just demonstrates or illustrates that dementia is an umbrella term. It's an overarching term that's used to really reflect cognitive diseases that affect your memory and that impact your daily lifestyle. So there are various types of dementia that exist, and Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia that exists today. 60 to 80% of our population has Alzheimer's disease. So when it comes to dementia, we've already reviewed what it entails. It involves memory loss, mood changes, thinking, like problem-solving concerns, and language, changes in your language. When it comes to Alzheimer's disease, there are little photos on the right side of the screen that demonstrate or depict where the changes are taking place within each of these stages. Within the first stage, there are mild symptoms. And essentially, the lateral part of the brain, temporal and lateral part of the brain is impacted. And that really causes the individual to have forgetfulness. They start to lose a sense of direction, you'll notice. But typically, the person should be able to take care of themselves. They're able to live independently, and they should be able to function in society appropriately. Within the middle stage, it impacts the frontal lobe of the brain, and that's where an individual noticeable symptoms will start to take place. A person's personality and behavior may change. They may become agitated. They may start to experience language changes. They'll be experiencing also changes in their judgment. So, for instance, the individual who didn't dress properly to go out in the snow. So in this stage, it can be the longest stage of Alzheimer's disease, but it's one where individuals may also lose their ability. They may experience incontinence, so they may have trouble with bladder control, with bowel movement, and they'll need help getting ready, getting dressed, bathing. A lot can progress within this stage, and it's the first time that families or caregivers may be thinking about getting personal support worker at home to provide help, or even thinking about long-term care options. So, and which we'll be hearing about a little later. And then within the late stage, it's the occipital lobe towards the back of the brain that's impacted, and essentially a person's vision will be impacted at this point. The language will be so impacted, and it'll be in a state of degeneration to the point where perhaps one word will be uttered or short statements will be uttered, but their language ability, communicating with language, will likely deteriorate at this stage, and they will likely need 24-hour care. So, some facts about Alzheimer's disease. And now, when it comes to what's actually taking place in the brain, I just wanted to illustrate this in some way. So, how many people have put up their Christmas lights so far this year? Not a lot of people? Okay, so for those who are used to putting up Christmas lights, sometimes we take the Christmas lights out and they're totally tangled. They're tangled. Sometimes you plug it in, half of the lights are lit, half are not. Essentially, what's happening in the lights is there's a break in the circuit that's taken place. The same thing happens within Alzheimer's disease within the neurons in the brain, within our brain cells. So essentially, in the bottom left corner, you'll see a diagram that looks like little stripes. And that's what's taking place within your brain cell. They're like train tracks. And on those train tracks, nutrients will flow back and forth from one end of the cell to the other. So the top image is showing healthy brain tracks, healthy neural pathways. But underneath, it seems like to be fading underneath. And that's because there are two hallmarks to Alzheimer's disease. It's plaques and tangles. And so plaques are forming in between the brain cells, preventing the messaging to be sent from one cell to another. And tangles are taking place within the cells. So the fibers in the cells are actually twisting and forming little clumps, similar to what's happened with the Christmas lights. They've twisted, they've somehow broken, and it's preventing the nutrients from going from one side of the cell all the way through to the other. So it's causing the cells to die. So in the middle image, you're going to see the left side of the brain. It's a picture of a human brain. The left side is normal, from a person with no cognitive decline. And the right side is the brain of a person with Alzheimer's disease. And you can see significant atrophy and shrinkage in the brain in that picture. So some facts about Alzheimer's disease. As we know, it's the most common form of dementia. For individuals who have experienced or who have had a loved one who has had Alzheimer's disease in their family, it does not necessarily mean that you're going to go on to experience Alzheimer's disease. Only 5% of individuals experience familial or inherited Alzheimer's disease. So only 5%. Alzheimer's disease can be treated, but it cannot yet be cured. However, millions of dollars are going into research around the world, really seeking for a cure. You can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease, and you can live well with dementia. Okay. So you might be wondering, how is it possible to live well with Alzheimer's disease? So I'd like to introduce you actually to Ron Roberts. And Ron was an accomplished journalist. He spent 20 years working in the field and had extraordinary experience. He actually worked quite closely with Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And he was just thriving in what he did. But one day he walked into his doctor's office at the age of 77, and he received the diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. And in that moment, he also had his driver's license taken from him. It was the most devastating experience he had ever encountered. Also not knowing what that even meant. What was Alzheimer's disease? How was that affecting him? What he did know, however, was that he refused to allow the diagnosis to dictate his future. And so what he wanted to do was, he wanted to live his life, and he thought about his bucket list. You know, I don't know how many years I have left, he said to himself. What is it that I want to accomplish? And the number one thing he wanted to do on that list was go to university. And he's 77 years old. So he realized if he were to do that, he'd be going into school, attending classes with people in their 20s, maybe their late teens. But the thing that concerned him the most was he was afraid of taking tests. And so what he did was he started to go for 5K walks every single day. Because what we do know is what's good for your heart is good for your brain. And so the cognitive activity actually helped him to develop clarity cognitively in his brain. And at the age of 80, he enrolled in university at the King's University College, located at Western University in London, Ontario. And he started off getting D's in his classes. They were able to really work with him and develop special computer programs for him to use, but he took the same tests, he completed the same assignments, did all of the same presentations. But at the end of the 4 years, he ended up getting A's. And he graduated in 2022 with a degree in political science at King's University at the age of 84. So this is really a message of hope that you can live well with Alzheimer's disease. Some tips from Ron. A dementia diagnosis doesn't have to be a death sentence. Life goes on, make the most of it. Number 2, ageism is a big part of the stigma. Older people can still contribute to and participate in the community. And the brain is just another muscle that needs exercise and stimulation. We've all heard, if you don't use it, you lose it. That is so applicable to dementia and to your brain health. It's important to engage in cognitive exercise and to keep yourself stimulated, and we'll speak a bit about that as we move on. Yeah. Reducing your risk. And so we'll look at here at Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." So just as Ron had hope there's hope for us in being able to take preventative steps to reduce our risk in dementia. Okay, so The Lancet, a world-renowned medical journal, released the 12 modifiable risk factors for dementia in 2020, and I'll be sharing with you what that entails. So essentially, by modifiable, it means that we are able to take steps to help reduce our risk for dementia. There are risk factors that are not modifiable, that cannot be changed, and those are age. We know, based on the previous slide, individuals over the age of 60 have a higher predisposition for dementia. That sex and gender also plays a role. For some reason, women have a higher prevalence. There's a higher prevalence of dementia among women. The same goes with cardiovascular disease, and there's a direct correlation between the two. There are studies taking place on estrogen levels, on hormones, to better understand why that is. And genetics. Genetics is not something we're able to change, but we do know that it's only a 5% incident rate of familial onset there. So when it comes to risk factors that can be changed, education is one. And we just saw with Ron, while he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, it didn't seem like he experienced a decline within that area. His grades went from a D to an A in 4 years. So education can really help. Continuously learning, keeping your mind stimulated. What the study is saying, or the journal article is saying, is individuals under the age of 40, if you continue to proceed and seek advanced education, that's something that will be a preventative mechanism for you in reducing the risk for dementia. And these all will reduce prevalence by 40%. Blood pressure. So essentially, normal blood pressure is 120/80. That systolic number at the top, if you're 40 and above, it should be no higher than 130 based on this study. So, certainly consult your family doctor to make sure your blood pressure is aligned with what's appropriate for you based on your medical health. But this study is saying your blood pressure should not be over 130. Hearing impairment. There's a correlation between hearing impairment and dementia. Avoid excessive exposure to loud noises, industrial areas, or loud music in your headphones or playing it around you. And if it is that you're putting up the volume because you can't hear, have your ears checked. And if you need to wear a hearing aid, it's better that you do that so that you're managing your hearing because there's a correlation there. Smoking. Just don't do it. It's terrible for you. It adds to increases your risk level for cardiovascular disease. We do know that with smoking, there's a higher incidence for stroke. 50% of individuals who have a stroke go on to experience dementia. So you have to eliminate smoking. And secondhand smoke is not good for you either. Please avoid it at all costs. Obesity. If you're able to engage in physical activity and healthier diet, it's better for you. Speak to your doctor to better understand, am I approaching that? Should I be concerned about my weight? Often your doctor won't hesitate to let you know, but it's good for you. It's good for you to know, and it can help reduce instances of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and dementia. Depression. Oftentimes, if individuals are feeling isolated or feeling low, depression can bring on an onset of dementia. It's so important to speak to your doctor about this. Therapy is available. Listening to worship music or music that you enjoy. Interacting with people, social engagement can help, but it's important to have that addressed. Low social contact, especially for individuals who are shut in. It's important to maintain contact, things like FaceTime, calling people up, sending a text message, connect with people. Even for those who you know are home alone, check in on them. It's important, and it really can help to reduce the risk of getting dementia. Inactivity, as we'd mentioned before, cardiovascular health is so important when it comes to dementia. Get up and move, and we'll be hearing a bit more about that from Olga when she speaks. And diabetes is so important. If you're diabetic, if you have type 2 diabetes, keep it under control. That can be managed with your health, with your diet, with exercise. It's also, Alzheimer's disease has also been referred to as type 3 diabetes because the brain is not able to effectively process the insulin in the brain. So it's important for you to manage that. If you need to take medication or insulin, make sure you do that consistently. Excessive alcohol. Now, this study, it sort of describes excessive alcohol as being a maximum of 10 glasses of wine or 10 glasses of beer a week, which is excessive. However, the Center for Substance Use and Addiction indicates that it has more recently released that a maximum of 2 glasses of alcohol a week is what's recommended. But the excessive amounts in this article reflect that there's a correlation to dementia. Brain injury. Now, this is something that can occur early on in life. As we think about the various sporting activities that our children are involved in, adolescents, young adults, football, soccer, anything that can potentially cause impact to the brain, to your head, protect your head at all costs. Wear helmets when you're bike riding, even if you yourselves are trying to engage in physical activity, protect your head. Concussion, there are longitudinal studies showing that concussion or brain injury earlier on in life can lead to dementia later on in life. And even now, to prevent falls, things like installing a grab bar in your shower so that you can avoid slipping, you have better stability. It's important to protect your head at all costs to avoid instances of dementia. And pollution is the final one. Excessive exposure to pollution within the air pollution in large industrial areas, or even car pollution when you're near an idle car. Just try to avoid that sort of exposure. There's significant research being done by Dr. Paul Villeneuve in the University of Ottawa just around the impact of pollution on the brain. And so do what you can to avoid excessive exposure there. Okay. Now we're going to look at how to follow a brain-healthy diet. Okay, and we'll look at Isaiah 55:2. Eat what is good, and your soul will delight in the richest of fare. So essentially, one of the best practices is to ensure that when you're populating your plate, preparing your meal, that you think about the colors of the rainbow when you're doing so. So think about red. Fruits and vegetables that are red in color, such as beets, really contain high levels of vitamin C. They're good for your heart and bladder health, can help to fight cancer. Orange and yellow, like carrots, mangoes, tangerines, help to support your heart and eye health, boost your immune system with vitamin C. Green vegetables like kale and spinach can help to promote your brain and eye health with vitamin K. Purple, those berries that are rich in antioxidants, so good for you. Really support your memory and help to protect your blood vessels. That's something to keep in mind. And then brown, cauliflower, ginger, mushrooms, they help to encourage good cholesterol levels and can protect your heart as well. Essentially, the Canada Food Guide has moved away from recommending servings, but they're looking at the plate in totality. Half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables. a quarter should be grain and the other quarter should be meat. And so when you think about your plate, half of your plate should be composed of what? Colors of the rainbow. That's right. Okay, we'll move on. All right. So as we move on, also water is very important for you. While the Canada Food Guide doesn't specifically provide a recommendation on the amount of water that should be consumed, Harvard Health has suggested that 4 to 6 cups of water, in addition to the regular fluid sources that are available through coffee, tea, juices, and vegetables, would be appropriate, as it helps to carry nutrients to your cells, and it helps to maintain good blood pressure, as well as eliminate waste from your body. So important. All right. So Dr. Carol Greenwood, researcher from Baycrest Center, a renowned hospital here in Toronto that really looks at geriatric care and research, led a study, a longitudinal study that looked at individuals over the age of 50 and actually created the first evidence-based brain health food guide. And it's on your handout there. I've just referenced it for your review. What it entails is that individuals who were over the age of 50 actually experienced a lower risk of the onset of Alzheimer's disease after participating in partaking of a brain healthy diet. And so what this entails is really limiting the amount of sweets, and you'll see it on your handout there, but the sodium intake, processed foods, excessive sweets, and really focusing on the natural, the fruits and vegetables, nuts, lean meats, fish with great omega-3 like salmon. It's better for your brain health. So items to limit, prepackaged food like canned soup. It's so convenient, but the sodium content can be high. Salty snacks, they actually say limit to 10 to 15 chips from that bag. Don't go more than 15. Fries, 10 skinny fries. You cannot have the whole McDonald's pack of fries, and they're so tempting, but they're limiting you there. Store-bought dairy desserts, half a cup of ice cream is the max, and this is to limit 3 servings per week. Store-bought goods, so only 1 cookie. Candy bar, if it's a small candy bar, it can be half. If it's a family block, 1/10. And then when sugary drinks, just reduce it. 1 can of pop is recommended there. All right, we'll move on. So essentially what Dr. Greenwood is saying is up to 50% of cases of Alzheimer's disease may be the result of diet and lifestyle. And as we mentioned, they're modifiable risk factors. That's something in our control that we can manage. So just to reference, these are some brain healthy diets that have been recommended by the Alzheimer's Society, as well as the Heart and Stroke Foundation. The DASH diet on the left really looks at reducing your sodium intake, and that's helping your hypertension, your high blood pressure to manage. It really is based on the same principles that we discussed: increase fruits and vegetables, that followed by protein and lean meats. On the right, we're going to see the Mediterranean diet. This diet has received the most clinical trials and the most scientific studies in the history of a diet. And it is the one that is, in fact, referenced by Dr. Greenwood in the handout. This is the one that's really placing a greater emphasis on fruits and vegetables, the colors of the rainbow when you're populating your plate, lean meats like chicken, lean fish, but also things like salmon with great omega-3 fats, and then minimizing the amount of processed foods and sugars and fats. And then in the middle is referred to as the MIND diet, a more recent diet that's been developed. It's a combination of the two, combination of Mediterranean and the DASH, and really limiting butter, cheese, red meat, fried foods, and sweets. Okay. Activities for your brain. So the verse here from Hebrews 12:1, let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Okay. Physical activity. It is so important to get up and to move. 150 minutes of physical activity is what is recommended. Of a moderately vigorous walk, light jog, if you're able to. And it's better to consult your doctor to see what is suitable for you in this case. Essentially, you shouldn't be able to casually speak to the person next to you while you're walking, the way you would if you were sitting down on your couch on the phone. They say that if you're able to speak for utter 5 sentences and are a little bit out of breath, then your heart rate is up enough where you're getting the benefits of your activity. So you should be able to be a little bit out of breath. Don't overly exert yourself, but do what's best for you. Keeping active with somebody you know is what's encouraged and promoted. The social engagement is so important for your brain health. And for individuals who have lower mobility, things like chair exercises can be helpful. There are great videos on YouTube, and you'll be able to get your heart moving just with the arm movements and leg movements alone. Okay, and we'll be hearing more about that as well later. Next slide, yeah. Socially active. Keep socially active. Again, we've spoken about this being a risk factor that can be reduced for dementia. Take advantages of opportunities to chat. When you go to pick up your medication, have a little chat with your pharmacist. I know I have family members that do that too, but it's important to keep that social activity. Acts of kindness, smile. It makes you feel better. It makes the person feel better you're speaking to. Volunteer. We have lots of opportunities here at One Church to get involved and to volunteer, to interact with people. So do so. And combine socialization with activity and then maintain friendships. Call a friend. Challenging your brain, really pursuing lifelong learning. Engage in activities that challenge your mind. Crossword puzzles, word searches are good. Constantly stretch. Break your usual routine. What they say is if you're used to going to pick up your mail, for instance, and you always use the same route, change your route a bit. If it's somewhere not too far from home and you're familiar with your surroundings, it challenges your brain and helps you to build your reserve in that way. Cultural activities, if you attend a concert, have a chat about it afterwards to engage yourself socially and train your brain. Learn something new, learn a new instrument. It will help you long term. Managing your stress, it's really important to recognize symptoms of stress. Are you suddenly feeling like you can't sleep at night? You're experiencing panic attacks, lower appetite. It's important to recognize when you're stressed out. Take time for yourself to relax. Set realistic expectations for yourself. Don't overly prioritize and populate your day with things. Incorporate in your calendar opportunities and moments to pause and to take a break. And get at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep a day and accept support. Ask for it and accept it. Okay? And caring for someone with dementia. Find help. It's so important and challenging when we are loving and caring for someone with dementia to do so. It can be exhausting. It can be depleting. Essentially, you're seeing someone who you love who is slipping away in a lot of ways, and that's referred to as ambiguous loss and grief. And when you go through that, while the person is still alive, you're seeing parts of them that no longer exist. And so you need to be able to speak to someone about it. You can look to a personal support worker for at-home support. You can speak to their caregiver support groups available for you. The Alzheimer Society has an array of activities and programs that can help people in this particular case. But look after yourself. You need to be strong and healthy in order to care for someone else. Go and get your doctor appointments, get your checkups, ask family and friends to help. And they're there for you and love you and want to do that. Take advantage of community programs and plan ahead for the future. Okay. And we'll end with this verse from Isaiah 46:4. Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he. I am he who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry, sustain, and rescue you. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nalini. That was amazing. Thank you for all that information. Oh, I forgot my stretchy thingy last time. Well, my name is Olga Sen. I am sister-in-law of wonderful Nalini here. Yeah! We're so blessed to have married two incredible brothers, and our in-laws are sitting at the back. So, so we have a wonderful family, and some of you always ask, are you related to Nalini? So I just thought I would just mention that, we're sister-in-laws. And my name is Olga, as I mentioned, and I studied gerontology in college, and then I went on to work in retirement and long-term care. And I started off as an activity director, and I did exercises with seniors, so that's still my passion. And then I went on to manage a retirement residence, but now I work for Operation Christmas Child. So some of you have maybe seen me and call me the shoebox lady. And yes, that is where my heart is. Also with the ministry of children too, and the gospel, sharing the gospel. So seniors and children, I love them all. So I don't think I'm going to share anything new with you today that you don't already know, because we should all know that we have to stay active, and we've been seeing some of the benefits of that. But what are some of the benefits of staying active? Heart disease, lowering the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, stroke, some cancers like colon and breast cancer, and as we learned, dementia and Alzheimer's disease too. What can it improve? It can improve our self-esteem, our mood, sleep quality, and our independence. If we don't stay active while aging, what do you think could happen? Pardon? Yeah, exactly. We'll increase our risk of getting some of those things. And what is the number one cause of seniors or aging adults that land us in the hospital? Falls, exactly. Good. Did you know that, or did the slide come up? Good. Good. Well, staying active can prevent us from having falls. So regular physical activity can help us to prevent falls. Older adults who do regular physical activity can reduce their risk by falling by 30%. Can you believe that? A third. Okay, keep yourself out of the hospital due to this. Doing exercise improves strength, balance, and flexibility. This helps people to feel stronger and more confident on their feet. Okay. Good. So how much activity do we need? Well, Nalini shared it with us, at least 150 minutes a week. That sounds like it's a lot, but really it just ends up to being about 30 minutes a day, okay? So we can go for a 30-minute walk, okay? Or you choose what you can do for 30 minutes, riding a bicycle, okay? And at least 2 days out of the week, we need to strengthen our muscles, okay? Because that's what causes us to fall. We don't strengthen our muscles, okay? And that's where this will come in. You are all gonna do some exercises with me soon. Okay. And then we also need to do balance exercises, okay? So things like standing on one foot. And you can do this while watching TV, okay? Just keep going back and forth like this. Hello, okay? And just add to it. First start off like this on one leg, holding on to something, and then you can move along and do other things like that, okay? But make sure you're telling people what you're doing. Okay? Okay? Okay, it's because you don't want to do something that you're putting yourself at risk for, okay? So if you've never stood on one foot before, don't start doing it and jumping around, okay? Work according to what your abilities are, okay? And make sure that you're telling your doctor and sharing this information with your doctor when you're getting, yeah, we don't want you to fall. Okay, good. Okay, so you've done your 30 minutes of exercise a week. Is that enough? If you spend 30 minutes a day of exercise, 30 minutes a day of exercise, and you spend the rest of the day in your armchair watching Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, yeah, Young and the Restless, right? All these shows, right? How the time passes. And all of a sudden, okay, you've done your 30 minutes of exercise, but then you've also spent 9 hours in a chair. So did the 30 minutes of exercise benefit you at all? Yes, it did a little bit, okay? But there are other things. It's called mobilizing. You just need to keep moving. So yes, you've done your exercise, but then you have to find opportunities to mobilize also, okay? So if you're watching TV, put the remote control by the TV or on the fireplace. So you know that every half an hour, at least you have to get up and go and get the remote, and then you can come back and you can sit down again. And then while you're walking to get the remote, you can, again, lift your legs, okay? So just think of these things while you're in your home. You're reading your Bible, doing a devotion, okay? You can do it standing up. Do it with one hand in the air, okay? Do it circling, anything just to keep moving, okay? Use the stairs when you can. If you're going to the mall, park a little bit further, so you can walk to the door. Yeah, exactly. At least you got in a little bit of a walk, right? When you're cooking, okay? Same thing. If you're cooking, you can do some leg raises, okay? Turn around a little bit. Anything just to keep moving. Okay, so we talked a little bit about community socialization. I'm just going to give you a few minutes just to talk in your table groups, get to know each other. This is an opportunity for you to share how you stay active and how maybe to get someone's number or just to make a friend and see how people stay mobile, okay? Just give you a few minutes to do that.
Hi, everyone. I'm not going to make you do any exercises. My name's Lianne Newman. I work for the City of Toronto for the Senior Service and Long-Term Care Division, which operates 10 long-term care homes and also programs for seniors that live in the community. So I'm just going to share a little bit about long-term care from my experience of working in that field. It can be kind of, you hear about it on the news and you don't really know a lot. And then all of a sudden it becomes a factor and it's kind of can be tricky or overwhelming to navigate. So I'm just going to give you some information that hopefully you can just keep tucked away, that if and when this becomes something that you or a loved one needs, you'll have a little more knowledge about navigating. So So seniors are living in a couple different ways. So many seniors are living independently. And in fact, the government of Canada in 2021 released stats that 93% of seniors are living in private households. So we often we think of, and those of us who work in the field, we see these long-term care homes full, and they are, but it's really only 7% of seniors that are living in a communal setting. So I think that is something to put some perspective to this. And then we have a lot of seniors are living independent with supports, and those supports can be many different things. It can be formal supports through home care, PSWs and nurses, or a lot of families are lending that support. They're bringing meals or they're coming and helping clean the household. And so many people continue to live independently their entire life, either doing everything for themselves or with supports. And then there is a portion of people who then may need higher care needs. And if that is what someone needs, then long-term care can be an option for that. So I want to tell you a bit about that. Next slide. So what I'm going to cover is what is long-term care, because it can be confusing. The benefits, so what does it provide for someone living there? The cost, because that's tangible and very important. And how you would apply for long-term care, and then just a couple other considerations. So just bear with me here. Long-term care, which is actually, you'll see different homes around, but when it says, so-and-so home long-term care, that's a long-term care home. And that's important because long-term cares are funded by the Ministry of Health. And they fall under very specific legislation, provincial legislation, that is called the Fixing Long-Term Care Act that came out and was revised in 2021. Long-term care homes, and I should note, I'm talking about long-term care in the province of Ontario, so it may be a little different in other provinces, but long-term care homes are part of our province's healthcare system, much as physicians, hospitals, clinics. Long-term cares are a part of that. You may be surprised to know that anyone who's 18 years of age and older can live in a long-term care home if they have those service needs. Mostly it is older population, but there are some younger people that, due to various limitations or diagnoses, need that 24-hour care. And some homes even have specialized units that specialize for people that are a bit younger. But for the most part, it is seniors and people who are older. Because long-term care homes are under the Ministry of Health, and that those who operate them have to have a license to do so, it's consistent, standardized care across the sector. So if you go to one long-term care home and you go to another one, you're going to get the same basic services. So it's not well, here I'll get physio, but I won't get it there. they're under the legislation which says this is what must be provided. And the other thing is there's a coordinated application and waitlist process. So you don't just apply to a home and go, I want to go there. It's all coordinated through an organization that I'll tell you about in a minute. So quite a centralized, coordinated process. And long-term care operators, though, can include municipal, so such as that I work for, the City of Toronto. A lot of not-for-profit organizations operate long-term care homes, and they have licenses, like our beloved Shepherd Village, and we know they have a long-term care. And also for-profit. So you've heard of places such as Rivera or Chartwells, and some operate long-term care homes. Alrighty. So I just want to highlight the quick difference between long-term care and retirement homes. And retirement homes is another option for people. It's but there are differences. So in long-term care homes, residents more generally will have the need for a more comprehensive level of care, where in retirement homes, they can kind of pick and choose what their care that they want to receive is. So they may be functioning more independently, and then just asking for certain services. Long-term care homes provide 24-hour nursing or personal care. And while retirement homes do have these staff 24 hours around the clock, not everyone who lives there would be necessarily receiving them. One of the main differences is in long-term care, all the costs of the care services are paid for by the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. So everything that is considered care is incorporated into basically OHIP, whereas in retirement homes, they're privately paid, so they're not funded under the Long-Term Care Act. And so that's why in a retirement home, you might say, well, I would like help with my shower or help with this, and they'll give you a fee for that service. In long-term care homes, as I mentioned, there's standardized services across all the homes. Whereas in retirement homes, it tends to be quite standardized, but it's not legislated to that same degree. So some retirement homes have, more of a unit that does higher nursing care. Others may or may not have that. And then the legislations are different. There is legislation for retirement homes, the Retirement Homes Act. And of course, long-term cares are under the Fixing Long-Term Care Act. So that's just a quick snapshot of some of the differences, but retirement homes also offer very good care and very good services, so they may also be an option. So if someone moves into long-term care, what can they expect to receive? So 24-hour nursing and personal care based on their needs. So some people need a lot more and some people need a lot less. Access to a physician. So long-term care homes have attending physicians that come in at least once or twice a week and see residents on different units. So they wouldn't see every resident every week, but the team on the unit would say, okay, I think you need to check in with Mrs. Smith today or this or that. Having said that, you can still keep your own physician if you want to go out and see your doctor. That's an option. Treatment and medication administration, so all of the medications and any treatments, care for wounds and things like that are going to be done in the home. Physiotherapy and occupational therapy, and that's also funded by the ministry to the homes to be able to provide that. That's super important because, as we just heard from Olga, keeping people's functional abilities as high as they can be is really important. So most of our residents will see the physiotherapist and or the rehab assistant a couple times a week, maybe 3 times a week, to do some either real basic stuff, stretches and that. And some people, if they've had issues, they may be working for a shorter term goal, like let's get you back walking again, or let's get you walking with a walker. So that's real important. There's also dietitians who will work to figure out what's the best diet for residents. Pharmacy services, so that means that all the medications are ordered through the home and they're delivered, so the residents don't have to be ordering and picking up their own medications. Lab services, if people need blood work or that kind of thing, that's done in home as well and sent out. And then some of the services that I've been more involved with over my years, social work services. So someone to help people navigate and help the families maybe navigate what they're going through, answer questions. There's often support groups or counseling. Social and recreational activities are probably one of the most, listen, I'm biased, but one of the most important things in long-term care, because you're there to live, right? And once your physical needs are cared for, then you want to live. And living means engaging with people. It means doing things that you're interested in. It means having a laugh. It means studying, all those things. Spiritual and religious care as well. There's usually a coordinator who will help the residents to access the spiritual and religious care of their desire. And I must say that so many of our long-term care homes in the city have volunteers from spiritual organizations, churches like ours, who go in and run services for the residents who live there. And those are like life and breath for the residents that live there. So it's really, really a blessing to the residents. And some have people from churches or their faith group that come and visit one-on-one or come and read scripture to them. I mean, and it's so important. And also laundry services. So all the laundry's done, all meals and snacks, of course. And I have to say that when I was working in the homes, I would be like, I don't know how these residents fit it all in, because they got the breakfast and then they got a snack and then they got the lunch and they got the snack and the dinner and the snack. That's a lot of food. And there's dessert and soup and yeah. It's a lot of food. And then most of the homes also have a volunteer program, and that's near and dear to my heart as well. So people that come in and add the extras, friendly visiting, taking people out for walks, tending the garden, running activities, doing spiritual care. So these things are all par for the course in a long-term care home. And there are some other services. So some homes will have specialized units. So a lot of homes will have units that care for people with dementia. So as Nalini talked to us about, and so units that are a little more sensitive to the needs of someone with memory loss and dementia. And maybe they're even secured units. So somebody who is apt to wander isn't going to wander away and get lost. Some have specialized clinical care units like dialysis or IV, not all. So those are some of the uniquenesses. Some of the homes that the city runs have younger persons units because they have younger people with neurological diagnoses, and it's nice for them to be on a unit with people their same age and that are experiencing the same life journey that they're at. And then there's some homes that have cultural or religious-based homes, so such as Shepherd Village, or you'll hear about Yihong centers that serve the Chinese population. So those ones kind of have a focus on that culture or religion. But I really want to point out that even those homes, anyone can apply to it, because this is funded through our Ministry of Health. So although they may say Shepherd Village, it attracts Christians, anyone could also apply to Shepherd Village. And then all of the homes have some sort of palliative or comfort care offered, so that if someone is in the end of life, that if they want to stay living there and have the comfort care, that would be something that they could do. So the juicy part, the cost of long-term care. So just to rehash, all the care in long-term care is provided as part of our healthcare system. So the nursing care, the help with showers, all the medication, all that is under basically OHIP. But what you do pay for is accommodation costs, or it's often called a copayment. So think about your room and board, basically. So there is a cost to live in long-term care, but you're not paying the cost of what it would really cost for all that heavy nursing and care. These costs are set by the Ministry of Health. So this is another standardization across long-term care. So when you apply, you're going to pay the same rate at one home as you would at another home. So you know what it's going to cost you regardless of which home you get into. The Ministry of Health will typically review these rates in July, and they'll put a memo out letting you know if there's going to be an increase to that. But where the costs do differ is whether you're requesting basic accommodation, whether you want semi-private accommodation, or whether you want private accommodation. So there are 3 different cost levels based on that. So obviously private and semi-private is kind of obvious, but basic accommodation can vary based on the age of the home and when it was built. So a lot of the newer homes, based on the new standards for building it, even the basic rooms are really private. It might be you share an entranceway and you share a bathroom, but then you go this way and there's one person's space, and you go that way and there's another person's space. Whereas an older home might have a basic room being, you go in and there's a bathroom ahead of you, and then 2 people on this side, 2 people on that side with a separation curtain in between. So it's just that the standards have changed, the building standards have changed over the years. And so that may be something that you want to look at when you're looking at touring homes to see, okay, well, what does a basic look like here? What does a semi-private, what's a private look like? Sure, that's fine. And if you do apply for basic, then the ministry also has additional rate reduction. So what happens is once you're in the home, then there's a ministry form that they'll help you complete based on income. It's not based on assets, it's based on income, and it will let you know if you are eligible for further reductions. And the good news is that for anyone who's applied for this basic level of accommodation and has that opportunity to have a rate reduction, nobody in the province will be unable to afford long-term care because it is based on the lowest amounts of OAS and CPP and all that. So with those further rate reductions, there's nobody who would be unable to afford it. And what the ministry does as well is they leave what they call a comfort fund. And what that really is it only goes as low as the basic income. They'll still leave you a couple $100s each month so that you can pay for your hairdresser, because this is very important. And so you can maybe pay for your phone or your, activities that you're doing. So the basic rate reduced amount isn't the lowest possible. And I think the comfort account right now, comfort allowance is around a couple $100s. And this slide here shows you the prices. So it shows you the daily rate as well as the monthly rates. And that's current as of July 1st, 2023. That is in your handouts. So what is provided by the home? So you're going to have your basic furnishings. So you get a bed, a dresser, a night table, a chair. All your meals, snacks, and any nourishment supplements. So some people need supplements in order to maintain their weight or their health. Basic toiletries such as soap, shampoo, Kleenex, toothpaste, lotions, and potions. all the bedding, linens, sheets, blankets, pillows, towels, and any of the supplies for nursing treatment. So that's all covered within the cost of long-term care. What's not provided is some people like to bring a couple small pieces of their own furniture, or they like to bring a special chair. Television and decorations for your room, it obviously is not provided. Special toiletries, so for all you ladies who have your bougie lotions and potions, if you like a special shampoo, you would have to provide that yourself. Your clothing, obviously, is your responsibility. Phone, cable, and internet, you would have to sign up for and pay for through Bell, Rogers, whoever. And homes usually have one of those providers that does that in the home. And haircuts or salon services are not covered, so you have to pay for that as well. So, how do you apply if long-term care is something that you or a loved one need? There is an organization currently called Home and Community Care Support Services. It used to be years ago called CCAC, and it's probably going through some name changes yet again. And there are branches in all regions of Ontario. So these are the gatekeepers for long-term care. They also coordinate home care. So if you know someone who's living at home and you think, I think they need a PSW to help them with their shower, that's the same place you would call. So they coordinate home care and they manage the long-term care placement process. And all applications to long-term care are made through home and community care. So you don't go, well, I like Shepherd Village and I like Seven Oaks and so I'm going to put an application here and there. Nope. You go to this one-stop shop and they're going to put them in for you. And they have a number which is in your handout that doesn't have an area code, as well as I've put the website for them there. So I'll just tell you a little bit about what will happen. So if you call home and community care, and you can just call to have a discussion, but what will happen is they'll assign a case manager, and that case manager will come out to the home of the person who's thinks they want to apply, and they'll actually do an assessment right in the home with the person. And they'll see if this person does meet the needs, or that their needs meet the level of long-term care, or if maybe they need home care. And then if they say, yes, you do seem like you need long-term care and you are eligible, then they'll walk you through that application process. So that might mean that they will help you complete the paperwork. They'll ask you to get a medical from the physician of the person applying. They'll talk to you about what homes are in your area that you might want to apply to. They'll give you a list. They can also tell you how long the wait lists are at different homes. That really helps. And then once all that's done, they send it into the homes. And then the homes have a look at it. And, as long as there's not something really unusual, they'll either say, yes, we can meet the needs of this person, or we cannot. Usually that's screened out before applying. And then they also manage the wait list. So Shepherd Village down the road doesn't manage their own wait list. Home and community care does. So when a bed comes up at Shepherd Village, they let them know. And then home and community says, okay, this person is going to be coming into your bed because they're next on your wait list. It's a very centralized process. So when you're choosing a long-term care home, you're allowed to choose up to 5 homes. The wait lists are going to vary by home. So homes that are culturally specific tend to have high wait lists because people from that cultural population want to get in there. Sometimes newer homes, because they're new and shiny, sometimes they have a higher wait list. I can only say from my experience, new and shiny, long wait list doesn't always equal the best, or doesn't mean the others don't have good care and good experiences. So the wait time is going to vary depending on what homes you choose. And this will be important because depending on how urgent the need is, if you want to wait for that home that has a longer wait list and that is a doable thing, then that's all right. But if it's a little more urgent, you may want to put some homes on there that have a bit of a shorter wait list because, there are homes with quite a bit long wait lists. The other thing that will be impacting your wait time is whether you applied for basic, private, or semi-private. Because obviously if it's semi-private and it's a female bed that comes up, then they're going to take the next female on the list. They're not going to put a male in there. So what will happen once you've chosen your homes, when the first bed comes available, you're going to get a call from Home and Community. And I will caution you that it happens quickly. When you get that call and they want you to make a decision, okay, are you going to take the bed? Okay, you have to move in the next couple days. It's unfortunately, the system is so in need that they can't give you 2 weeks to think about it. And that's just part of the fact that it's an in-demand system. So that will happen a little bit quickly. So you have to kind of mentally be ready that when that call comes, I'm going to have to act a little bit fast. And if you turn down a bed, then they actually take you right off the wait list. And that's important to know because you may say, well, I'm picking on Shepherd Village today, but you may say, I really wanted Shepherd Village, and this is Bendale Acres, so I'm going to wait for Shepherd Village. Unfortunately, they're going to take you off the wait list, and you're going to have to wait 3 months before you can reapply. But the good news is that you could move into Bendale Acres, which is one of our city homes, and you could still keep your name for your first choice. So when a bed does come up at Shepherd Village, you could move from where you moved to. So you really want to think about needing the care, and maybe you're not going to get your first choice right away. And I'll tell you one thing that I've observed over the years is that once people are settled, oftentimes they don't want to move. And they say, yeah, I kind of did want to go there, but I'm real happy here now. And so I'm not going to move. But it's also reassuring to know that, hey, my name can still be on there for that one that's closer to my daughter, or that one that has like a special language focus or that kind of thing. And I'm just going to conclude with a couple other considerations. So I do recommend that if you or a loved one are thinking of long-term care, take a tour. All long-term care homes offer tours in person. And usually you call and they're going to schedule that for you, and you're going to walk around and you're going to ask questions, and you're going to be able to see the place and what it looks like, and you're going to feel what it feels like. Because homes have different vibes. Yeah. Thank you, Cynthia. So I really think that's really important. And then deciding to apply to long-term care can be really hard because, let's face it, most of us want to live in our homes as long as possible, right? And the stat I told you was like, hey, most seniors are aging at their own homes. But sometimes the care needs are beyond what can be cared for the best at home. And you see a lot of couples, and one of the spouses is caring and diligently for that other spouse, but their needs have become really beyond. And then you end up that it's not pleasurable anymore because it's very stressful, and maybe they're putting themselves at risk. And I know there's a fight that people have about going into long-term care because they don't want to, but after 6 weeks or so and everyone's settled in, you can see it can be quite beautiful that now the loved ones, when they visit, can visit and enjoy each other. And they're not worried about just, I got to get this person to have their bath. I got to get them to eat. So I guess I just wanted to say that, although it may not be the person's first choice, there's a lot of life in these homes. There's a lot of activities. There's staff that care. There are other family members, and you see family members get to know other family members, and they become friends. And they have a little social group there. There's volunteers. And the other thing is, you're not isolated. You're in this new community. Maybe not the one you wanted originally to be in, but you're in a community, and the residents who live there are giving to the staff, and they're giving to the volunteers. And from a Christian perspective, they're actually blessing this whole new community that they're in, even into their late age, right? I know you're not supposed to have favorites, but I might have had a favorite resident at one of my homes I worked at. And, she made me smile every day. And that blessed my life. And she was in her 90s. And I told her, you have no idea what joy and blessing you're bringing here. So it's not just being cared for, it's having an opportunity to also be part of a community where you can be a part of caring.
Hey, can we just close in prayer? And then I'll let you go this afternoon. Father, we thank you for this afternoon. We thank you for the time of fellowship we've had, the food. Thank you for the amazing information that we have learned this afternoon, God. Maybe we can apply it to ourselves now or down the road, or for some loved ones that we know, God. It's been a great afternoon of teaching, a great afternoon of learning. I pray you bless Nalini, Olga, and Lianne, Lord, and just thank you for their lives and for everyone that was able to be here today. Father, be with us as we leave this place. Get us home safely, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Have a great afternoon, everyone.